Welcome to the second part of our Elvis tour. We've come a long way since Tupelo, Mississippi. We're now in Nashville, Tennessee, home of country music. Really since the days of the Carter family and Roy Acuff and Minnie Pearl, Nashville has been associated with country music. But really Nashville is a little bit more than that. It's also a big center for the music industry, the recording industry. And folks like Roy Orbison, you see this guitar is in memory of Roy Orbison, also recorded here in Nashville. And Roy Orbison, of course, is not really considered country music. But that's typical of Nashville. All types of music was recorded here in addition to what we consider country music. Elvis Presley also recorded in Nashville. In fact, he recorded in this very building to my left. This is RCA Studio B, arguably one of the most famous studios in the world, certainly in Nashville. And RCA just celebrated its 50th anniversary. That makes it one of the oldest professional recording studios in Nashville. Elvis' association with Nashville really began early in his career. RCA Records bought Elvis' contract from Sun Records at the end of 1955. In the following year, 1956, Elvis really stops recording in Memphis. In 1957, the studio building opens, and Elvis is a frequent visitor to the studio through the next 15 years. Elvis recorded many of his greatest hits inside this studio, RCA Studio B, and we are very fortunate to meet two of the folks who helped Elvis work on those songs. Come inside and let's talk to them now. Here we are inside the studio. We're going to talk to a couple of Elvis's friends, Ray Walker and Gordon Stoker. Ray, thanks for coming here today. Gordon, thanks for coming and talking to us today.
Thank you.
And so you guys obviously knew Elvis Presley. Obviously. From way back when, even before Elvis signed with RCA.
Yeah, we met him we met Elvis in 1955. We worked with Eddie Arnold.
Eddie Arnold?
In Memphis. And Elvis came back behind stage to meet us. He'd been hearing us sing on the Grand Ole Opry, and we, not all the time, but occasionally we'd sing a spiritual, and that's what he liked. That really attracted his attention. So he came back behind stage to meet us, and he wanted to sing some songs with us, and I think we sang a couple of songs with him. And he said, if I ever got a major recording contract, I want you guys to work with me. But we didn't think a thing of it. But when RCA signed him in January of 1956, he asked for us, and that was a relationship we had for some 15 years.
15 years. So, but Elvis.
We went into Vegas doing 2 shows a night, and we quit then because we won't do 2 shows a night.
And now we can't.
That's right. So Elvis was attracted to you for the gospel music.
He loved spirituals.
He loved spiritual music.
We sang spirituals, one gospel. Spirituals and gospel, 2 different things.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And we, hand clapping spiritual, finger snapping spiritual. That's what he really attracted his attention.
I see.
There are 2 different things that make a difference between a spiritual and a gospel. One is the content. A spiritual is simply a related story that gives you a moral or a theme, and normally the spiritual has a different beat. It has a like that instead of ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. So mainly the gospel songs are right on beat, and the spirituals have an extra little beat to it that make you feel good, and it's usually a quieter song, isn't it? Usually a little quieter.
The little words are spoken together.
We get pretty loud on them sometime, though.
So I know he loved the music, though.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he loved. He absolutely loved that type of stuff.
Well, he was raised as a spiritual human being. He has a soul and a foundation that not many people have, and his mom and dad did a good job on his heart. He didn't know how to cope with the world, but he knew how to cope with himself up to a point, but he was not self-protective at all.
Right. Now, when you guys worked with Elvis all through the years, what sort of music did you really like to do with him? I mean, I know there was like a set list of songs to do that night.
Can I Fall in Love, that type of stuff. We did so many hits with him.
Yeah.
We did some 570.
485, 500.
500 songs?
600 songs. He only did about 800. So, the Jordanaires were very fortunate to be on so many of his hits.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep.
But did you sing those songs all through the session, or were there, I'm kind of leading up to something here, or did you warm up with some music before?
No, well, we warmed up, but not with the music we were going to record. He wanted that to be fresh. The only reason he warmed up was to get in the frame of mind and get his voice working to where he could really sing. And he knew when he was ready to sing that kind of song. And then we'd go listen to the song, and it wasn't nearly as good a lot of times as the stuff we warmed up with.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when you get into gospel music especially, he really right on center, just spot on, as you'd say. And
spot on.
He knew exactly what he was doing and how he felt about things, and knew what to put in and what to leave out. He's a master at tempos, a master at knowing the feel of a song, wouldn't you say?
A master at knowing the words. He was the only. We work with many stars and still do. But none of them get up to a microphone and sing a song without looking at the word sheet. But Elvis had all the words right up here.
He had that good of a memory?
Oh, yeah, must have.
Yeah.
He listened to Swing Down Sweet Chariot a couple of times, which is not an easy arrangement. You have to preach all the way through it. He went back there and recorded it without any word on a sheet of paper.
He never used a word sheet for anything that we ever saw him do.
So
he just had it all right up here.
All up there. So you had a real enthusiasm for that music.
We were doing a soundtrack in California once, and he looked at the words they gave him. He said, "Oh, I'd hate to see the scene this thing's going to be in," because he had some bad stuff in those movies. So he thought.
He had a good attitude about everything.
Great attitude.
Great attitude about everything he did.
Really? He didn't lord over folks?
Oh, no. I described him this way one time. They said, "What was Elvis like?" I said, "Well, let me just tell you. If Elvis had an office and you walked into his office, there'd be 10 to 12 guys with their feet up on a desk, and Elvis would be the quiet one in the corner strumming a guitar and working on a song." That's the way he was. He just didn't care about throwing himself out front at all. He was always for the person in front of him. If he was in a conversation and even the owner of a company came up to him and tried to interrupt him, he didn't even give him the time of day, didn't even notice he was there till he finished the conversation with the one in front of him. He had that much respect for humanity.
That's right.
My goodness. Now, I know what recording at Sun Records was like under Sam Phillips. It was kind of like we start and then we end whenever we feel like ending. What was the difference recording, say, here for RCA here in Nashville?
Then when you recorded.
When he recorded at Sun.
We didn't record it, Sun.
Well, we didn't record at Sun. You know, we started with him when he started RCA January 1956.
Yeah.
But Sun record recordings were different from everything that RCA did.
You know, I hadn't thought about this, Gordon, but that may have been where he got his training not to be rushed, because, you know, Sam owned his studio.
That's right.
And Sam would turn on a tape when he came in there and just let it roll.
Just let it roll.
They had all day if they wanted to, so when he came to RCA, he was ready to take all day.
Yeah, that's right. And he took all. Of course, we didn't care because we were getting paid by the hour.
As well as the song.
As well as the song. So he...
And he'd take all night for one song, many times.
Was that something RCA was thrilled about, or they?
No, they didn't like it.
No.
You know, they were counting the dollars, of course, but he didn't care.
Yeah. But they came out all right. He knew they would.
Yeah.
See, the Colonel had a contract with RCA that they had to press 1 million of everything he recorded. Now, I don't mean that they had to pay him on 1 million. They had to process and press 1 million records of anything he recorded. That means they had the public investment in there. So they had to ship those things. And a friend of ours here in town, when pressed in 77, he had over 400,000 unsold Presley records in his warehouse because they couldn't return them. So when Colonel made the contract with RCA that they had to press 1 million of everything and ship them,
Right.
then the people they shipped them to couldn't send them back. That's the way they protected themselves. That Colonel was tough.
He was tough.
Yeah.
He was tough.
The publicity said already 1 million sold. That's just to the distributors.
Yeah.
But he didn't bother to fill in those details. He just
everything.
Not to the public.
Not to the public. No, he made it feel like they were really sold.
That's
The
right.
company sold 1 million of everything he did.
Oh my. What was it like dealing with the Colonel? Did you ever deal with him much, or is it just strictly with Elvis and the...
The Colonel was always nice to me. He and I got along good together, but the Colonel was hard to deal with a lot of people. He gonna be God.
God.
And we got along good, and I'm glad we did, because it made it easier for the Jordanaires to do things with, various people. Because we worked with the Colonel, with Eddie Arnold, with Hank Snow.
Oh, you knew him before Elvis.
The Colonel was their managers, and we worked with him for them. So we were we knew the Colonel very well before we started with Elvis.
So you weren't surprised by anything he said to you?
No, we wasn't surprised at anything that happened, or anything that he did, or anything that he said. But he was always nice to us. He always treated us nice, and thanks to him, we're still getting paid for a lot of things we did with Elvis.
How so?
And he I think he was mainly responsible for that.
What do you mean by that? How do you...
Well, after we get paid through after for many things that we did with Elvis that they use that the Jordanaires own.
Really? You get a royalty from that?
Yeah. Not much after that.
I think the Colonel might have been responsible for that.
Oh.
He kind of looking out for us.
Yeah, he sure was.
The Colonel liked the quartet, and actually another thing. This is not to negate his personality at all, but we were no threat to him. We worked, and we just were hired to work, and we worked. And he could afford to be more friendly with the quartet because he wasn't managing us, and he knew we'd come when he called.
Right.
He had a sense of humor. Remember when I went out to the office with you one time to see the Colonel on Gallatin Road? And he says, I got to get a picture of you, boy. Says, you bring me a picture, because he had on a clock on the wall, an antique clock. Mm-hmm. He had the Jordanaires' pictures lined up. And the bass singer, whose place I had just taken, was on the bottom of that line. It was Gordon and Neil and Hoyt and Hugh Jarrett. He said, I want you to bring me a picture to go right there. Just bring me a picture. So we went back out there, and I brought him a picture, and the only one I had was just a little bit larger than the rest of them, because it had come out of a different photo. He says, you smart, boy. He said, I'll put that thing right there, a good foundation. And he took that picture, so now it's like melon head and the three berries on top,
He thought you were promoting yourself.
Well, no, he didn't think. He just liked it because that's the only one I had. He understood. He had a sense of humor.
Yeah, he made a joke out of it, a lot of things. He
really?
He loved to play jokes on people.
Tell him one of the most embarrassing times when he took us to eat. Going to take you to eat. Going to take you down here to eat at a little restaurant here.
Oh, we went into a restaurant in California or in Hollywood, and we were waiting for a table. There was there was the five of us, six of us, and the Colonel. So there was 7 of us all together.
Well, the particular one I'm talking about, that happened once. But when I was talking, it was Rick Nelson's manager that considered the Colonel his idol, and then you and me, we had stepped around. The others weren't with us that time.
Oh.
And there were people lined up through the little lobby and out on the sidewalk. He just pushes his way through. Come on. Well, we were kind of embarrassed. We didn't know what to think. So he walks in and he sees this table right in the center of the restaurant where there's one woman sitting there putting on her lipstick with a little piece of pie left, and then one walked toward the table and came back in from the restroom, I guess. Well, Colonel says, come on, boys, I got us a table. And the manager came and said, Colonel, hold on a minute, we'll have a table for you in just a minute. He said, it's all right, we found a table here. And he couldn't do anything with him. He had people waiting, and here this big man comes in with 3 guys and is taking a table. And so the women looked up and kind of shocked, and she had a fork, and he said, you don't need to eat that. Said, you've had enough. Said, get out of here. He told her to get up and leave the table.
Oh, my God.
They were so shocked they got up and left.
Yeah, they just kind of walked out like zombies.
You just wanted to hide your head? Or?
You had to be prepared for anything when he was
anything at all. He never knew what he was going to do.
Yeah.
What was Elvis like? He had a sense of humor, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
His was more closed. Elvis wasn't flamboyant. He didn't throw himself out there. His was more of a personal humor.
Yeah, he never would have pulled a stunt like that.
No. He would have waited till the end of the line.
He would have apologized. He'd have still been apologizing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, me.
Did he kind of reveal himself to the people in the studio more than he would outside? I mean,
when Elvis came into a recording session, even with new guys, he met them very courteously, like they were the important ones, And then in a few minutes, it was old friend time.
He'd walk around to each person in this studio, whatever studio we were in, and shake hands with each person and say, "Hey, you getting me the last of that shirt you got on?" Or just some little something funny to each person.
Really?
And that's the way he always spoke to each person and shook hands with each person.
He was just really comfortable in the workplace, and everybody around him was comfortable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everybody around him.
You know, most of the time the sessions, all the sessions we do, they don't have time to go around and speak to you. You know, they're watching the clock.
Yeah.
And they don't have time to go around and speak to each musician, each singer. But Elvis did.
Yeah.
When I met him, my first legal session with the Jordanaires was Elvis Presley. But I had done some work while I was still an associate principal here in the county. I had left for a couple of weeks and gone to California with him to work with Rick Nelson and Tommy Sands and do 4 singles with the Jordanaires, which was, you know, that's pretty good to be a part-time at that time.
Yeah.
And but when I came with him on June 1st, Elvis was the very first session that we had. And we were standing right over there. If you want to shoot it right by that door, you want to back off and look right there. And we were having a conversation, and I was kind of facing the wall over there. But Gordon was looking this way, and Elvis had come in the back door. And he said, Gordon says, "Here comes Elvis." Well, Elvis was right on top of me, and he put his hand out, and he said, "Hi, I'm Elvis Presley." I said, "I know who you are. I'm Ray Walker." He says, "And I know who you are." Because evidently he'd done some checking.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
He'd scouted you?
Oh, yeah, evidently, because we chuckled at him. But he was so warm and friendly, you'd have thought I'd known him all his life.
Really?
Oh, yeah. But he was so respectful, too. But it didn't take him but the first song to start sticking his fingers in my ears, too.
Yeah.
What'd he do?
He picked everybody.
He picked on you?
Yeah, when we record, if you had a big ah or something, he'd go, you know, try to, anyway, put his finger in your ear, pull the back of your hair to try to break you up.
I did several duets with Elvis. All Shook Up was the biggest one I've done with.
Oh, really?
With him, and we were on the same mic. You know, that was
Like this,
we
just
did
side
that in
face to
Hollywood.
face? Yeah.
We did that in Hollywood, and the studio in Hollywood. And he tried to break me up the whole time. And then right at the last of it, where the yay, yay of All Shook Up, I said, "Elvis, I didn't do that yet last." And in those days, you couldn't repair, you couldn't fix.
Yeah.
So we would have had to done it over. And I said, "I didn't do that last yay, yay quite with you." He said, "It don't make a difference. They ain't sold within, it ain't gonna sell no way."
Ain't gonna sell?
Yeah, it said it's not sold within.
It's sold about 15 million the last
Yeah, I was gonna say, it did pretty well.
Well, you know, there's a saying in the business, well, I'm sure it's a rule in the business, that if a record doesn't sell in the first 8 to 16 bars, it's not going to sell. It's got to grab you at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the formula we were always told. We've got to get them in the first 16 bars to listen to the record. And
That's
then,
what he said. That's when he said, if it ain't sold, then it ain't gonna sell no way.
yeah.
Oh, I see. The opening had to be perfect, or
We've been on a lot of songs, the first 16 bars. We wish we hadn't taken the job.
oh well.
Oh, well.
Oh well. Can't.
Not many. We've been really fortunate.
Yeah.
We've been very lucky. I don't think there's any vocal group anywhere that's been on as many hits as we've been on.
That's right.
You've been on quite a
And
few.
there's no vocal group
Oh.
around that's been in as many halls of fame as we've been so lucky to be inducted into.
We're
It's
in-
really wonderful that we've been inducted in so many halls
You're
of
in the
fame.
Country Music Hall of Fame.
I give Eddie Arnold and Elvis Presley credit for that, because had not been for them, we wouldn't have been inducted in so many halls of fame.
Yeah.
We sat on the stage one time, and it happened naturally, so now we use it in our act sometime, you know. I just said, well, Gordon was saying that Elvis tried out for 2 gospel quartets and failed the audition. And I just making chit-chat, I said, well, I wonder where we'd be if he had made those auditions. And Louis Nunley stepped up and says, I can tell you where we'd be. Welcome to Walmart. Would you like a cart?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
But we know that we would not be working as much as we're working had it not been for Presley. In fact, millions would not be working some way or other if it hadn't been for Presley.
We could still play dates all over the world. We tried to cut it off and not doing overseas dates anymore.
Oh, by
Yeah,
the
but
way,
people
I mean,
want you though.
Well, if England wants to know, I've gotten 4 letters wondering if we're coming back to the UK. The answer is no, we're sorry. Not right now.
Not right now. Maybe someday.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But you performed on stage with Elvis as well, right? On several big shows?
We work with Ronnie McDowell quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's one of my dearest friends, and we
Right.
did quite a few shows with Ronnie
Right.
McDowell.
And when you work with Elvis, he wanted us to stand as close to him as we could get.
On stage?
Yeah, and sometimes
Yeah.
when at the Sullivan show, the cameraman didn't want you in the shot.
Yeah,
and-
they didn't want us so close to him, but he wanted us just as close to him as we could be. Every time he'd step back, he'd step on our toes.
Really?
So it's just, that's just the way, that's the way he wanted it.
Yeah. Did you
He
go?
pretty much got what he wanted. He had his way of getting what he wanted to do.
But he knew what to do.
Yeah.
In other words, it wasn't contrived. And like I'm sitting comfortably on a stool, and he's sitting comfortably in front of the piano that Elvis and everybody else ever played on. Who would ever think to have me to lean on the piano so unnaturally and lean over and say, I'm comfortable? See? But y'all got to set up real comfortably right here.
This piano,
He got you, Kevin.
this piano is very famous.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, of course, Elvis played many things on this piano, on many songs. And of course, Floyd Kramer did Last Date on this piano,
Ah.
which was a big
Yeah,
hit,
yeah.
huge hit.
Yeah.
And there's many things has been done on this piano.
Now, if people don't know Elvis well, they think of the guitar. They don't think of him playing the piano. Did he actually play in the recording sessions?
Oh, yeah,
He did?
He played. He once said, "I can't dance. I can't play the guitar. I can't play the piano. What they want me for?" And we'd say, "Man, you got what it takes. Give it to him."
He even said, I can't sing.
He
said that.
even said, "I can't sing." What they want
Really?
me
He said that?
Yeah.
You know, he said the same thing Johnny Cash said, and then I guess it would be the reason they were on the same label, you know, and they started together at Sam Phillips. But we heard both of these guys say, you know, I'm not much of a singer, but I can tell a story. Both of them said that. And
Really?
I think they were a little mistaken on the singing part.
Yeah.
Especially
We
Elvis.
know Jailhouse Rock, that dance segment in Jailhouse Rock.
Yes.
That had Elvis very much upset. He worked a long time to get that like it came off, and they worked on the set. I guess some 3 days shooting that, and put it together like they did, and made it look like he was really doing some good dancing. But he wasn't a dancer, and he'd be the first to admit it.
Well, actually,
Wow.
didn't they have him to do what he could do, and then they let the others go with him?
Yeah,
And you say he made up some of the steps.
the other dancers
Yeah.
went along with him.
You say he wasn't a dancer, but he somehow got people excited on stage. Now, what was he doing on stage?
Well,
You wouldn't call it dancing.
Well, he didn't call that dancing.
He didn't call it dancing?
That movement that he did, they got that in the church. They were the Assembly of God, and he said that's the way we move in church. When we have a happy song, we move like that in church.
We start feeling the music and just move.
That wasn't. He didn't call that dancing.
He didn't call it dancing.
And you know the fact that they called it vulgar when he first started, very much upset him. He
Broke
said
his
that's
heart.
the farthest thing from my mind is to be vulgar.
Yeah.
And
He said to the colonel, he said, why are the preachers, why are the people saying that about me? And of course, the fact that the preachers would call him like a work of the devil or something like that
Yeah.
in a church pulpit really disturbed him.
Yeah, it really did.
He was raised in the church, and his mother especially, Gladys, was just really devoted, and he didn't want her hearing things like that. And Colonel said, look, there's nothing you can do about it, just crawl away to the bank with it.
All the way.
Yeah.
Colonel had his priorities.
He had his
oh,
priorities.
yeah.
He did. But his mother was disturbed by those comments. Do you think she heard those things?
Yeah, his mother
Yeah.
very much was upset.
Very much
Many things.
upset.
You know, she said she wished son could get a job in a hardware store and get out of this music business.
Really?
Yeah.
She didn't like the
She
music.
didn't want him in the music business.
She didn't like
She
the
called
so.
him, she said, son, just get him a job in a hardware store. She said, why can't he just have a job in a hardware store and take a paycheck home and forget it?
I can't imagine Elvis Presley doing that. I don't think he
No,
had the
not
energy
really.
for hardware work, but
Well, you know,
You can't imagine Elvis for the hardware store?
no, I can't picture that, but
it would have been a different hardware store.
I think he really loved show business too much to give it up.
He did. He loved to sing, and he loved to make music, and he loved to try to, make you happy with what he did.
He liked
certainly
serving the people.
succeeded.
He's actually had the heart of a servant. He did, and he's serving somebody every day, and he tried to grow every day. He tried to do better music. He loved classical.
Yeah.
Really?
When we recorded It's Now or Never, he had been listening to Mario Lanza. Oh, sole mio.
Yeah.
And he said, I want you to write me a song like that. So the guys got together and wrote him a song like O Sole Mio. And they changed the note about every 4 bars so they could claim the music. You have to change the line, the melody line and the chords. Well, we got in here working with him, and he kept singing it exactly like O Sole Mio, like he'd learned it from Mario Lanza. And they stopped and said, Elvis said, you've got to sing it the way we wrote it, or there's nothing we can do with it. Well, he tried it again. Well, he still sang it the way he learned it. He tried it again. Finally, he said, fellas, that's your problem. And he recorded it note for note like O Sole Mio, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, he did.
And they didn't get a dime in Europe on mechanicals. Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do
It's
it.
already copyrighted.
Yeah, it sure was.
Of course, they love that too. The guys that wrote the music to O Sole Mio love the money they made off of his.
They were thanking Elvis Presley every day.
Yes,
Yeah. I didn't know he liked classical music. Did he play all kinds of music? Did he really?
Well, do you know how he progressed and when he came to the stage, he started doing larger productions, and he would sing up in the upper register. Oh, he loved classical music. You could chronicle his life by the songs he recorded, what they said. And sometimes it was pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever even told Gordon this, but when we were doing a gospel album, he did one song, and he said, well, I don't have the rest of my stuff picked. Anybody got a suggestion? Well, the piano here was turned around the other way at that time, and he had been sitting doodling, and he stood up and said that. Well, I was standing right over there by those speakers, where the speakers are. So I stepped up to him and I said, Elvis, you really ought to record How Great Thou Art. And he said, How Great Thou Art? I don't know. I don't know How Great Thou Art. And I said, well, George Beverly Shea sings it at Billy Graham Crusades, and the Chuck Wagon Gang have recorded it. We've recorded it, and we're getting a lot of country artists to record it. It's a good song. He said, well, you think I should? I said, well, if you do, you'll be the signature of the song, and the song will be your signature. He said, okay. So I went out to the car and got a songbook, and we stood right here and taught him that song. And I knew during the words, he got real somber, that he was starting to have a few problems with the music business. But here's what I never really told Gordon. In the 80s, 70s and 80s, I was out on the road doing some congregational singings too. Like I had over 12,000 in Houston at the Glass Dome. And what I would do is I would copy the songs that weren't in the book, and I'd pass them out. Well, the people who published How Great Thou Art heard about it. And they sent me a letter and sent me a letter. I said, huh. So I just called their number and I talked to the head honcho. I said, you're getting after me for copying How Great Thou Art just so these people can learn your song and sing it? I said, I was the one that gave this song to Elvis Presley. Now, if you want to know where I am, here's my schedule. Call me, because it's going to be a bad day in your life if you ever try to sue me. I'll copy him anytime I want. And they sent me a letter saying it was okay to copy How Great Thou Art. They'd made millions off of hymns in that song,
yeah, sure.
and us singing it. Tell him about Good Luck Charm. Right back there. We sang it right back there about where folks are sitting.
Which story?
Well,
Which story?
We were on one mic, and everybody was sitting around. He called Gordon and me over to the microphone.
Oh, he did?
And he said, we've run this song. He says, now, Gordon, right here, I want you to go, ah, ah. He did his hand like that. And Gordon said, you mean you want the group to do that? He said, no, I want you to say, ah. And he got a twinkle on his face because he knew he had Gordon thinking, ah.
I did it.
Ah. Gordon says, you don't want me to do that. He says, I think I do. And so Gordon and I are the only two on that record. I answered the and he did the little ah, and it was exactly what the song needed.
He knew what it
Good song,
He,
yeah.
he knew pretty much what he wanted on every song. You know, he was the producer of his records. It says, you know, Chet Atkins or Steve Sholes or Felton Jarvis was his producer. They were not his producer. They sat in the control room,
Yeah.
and but Elvis was the producer.
So he had the instincts. He knew exactly what a song needed at a certain
He
place.
knew what he wanted, and he knew how he wanted it. So he was the producer, but you know, somebody else get credit for being the producer.
Yeah. Well, he knew his limits too. He wouldn't let anybody push him past his limits.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he knew what he could do and do well, and he wasn't going to let anybody force him to do something they wanted him to do if he couldn't do it well. That was the same with Sonny James. You know, they tried to get him to record some bigger stuff, and he said, "Fellas, I'm doing all I can do," and he refused too. They knew where their money was. They knew where their talent was, and they wouldn't allow to be pushed. So, but then they grew into different things as they recorded.
So Elvis was the boss in the studio.
Absolutely. Yep, he was the boss.
And he wasn't bossy either. It was understood.
He had a way about him.
That was an interesting trait, though. He could be the boss and not be bossy.
That's right.
Rick Nelson was really the only other person that was pretty much easy going like Elvis was that we recorded with.
Really?
He was easy going on everything we did with him. We did all his hits except Garden Party, and he was real easy going on everything he did.
Yeah.
Not as easy going, I guess, as Elvis, but easy going.
Well, he actually was quieter than Elvis.
Yeah, he was quieter than Elvis.
Less quieter, but he, you know, no problems with either one of them.
Yeah.
They good guys.
Now,
Patsy Cline, that's a different story.
really? She wasn't quiet?
Patsy wasn't quiet.
No.
She had a good heart and a good soul, but she'd been
good
beat up
voice.
enough in the business she was going to take up for
And
herself.
a great singer.
I heard she was tough as nails sometimes. She could spit it out.
I remember when we were doing a session over at Bradley's in the Quonset hut over there, and Patsy had come in. We had recorded I Fall to Pieces. And she'd come in. She had to come in through the studio where we were and went upstairs to where Owen was. And between a couple of the songs or a couple of the takes, I remember her coming down those steps, and she stopped and she cocked that head of hers, you know, and put her hand on her hip, and she said, "Boys, they say I got a hit. Ain't gonna take my Frigidaire in my car now." Because she was right on the verge of having stuff repossessed.
Oh, really?
Walking After Midnight, she sold a couple of million on that and didn't get a dime for it except what she made on the road. The company took all the money. And then Owen re-recorded it, and he sold that many more.
Yeah.
Put us on it with him.
So she didn't have any money till the last couple of years.
They gave her an advance. They gave her a healthy advance. They sure did.
Yeah. I'll tell y'all a little story. I may have told you this before, Gordon, but I used to live in Elvis's house on Audubon Drive. I owned it for 8 years, and I remember you telling me, Gordon, a long time ago, that the Jordanaires went down there to rehearse one day. Is that true? Yeah.
I've got some pictures made while we were there on rehearsal.
Yeah.
And we went down there, you know, more than once.
More than once?
We went down there when he first bought it. He always was proud to show off what he'd bought. Of course, we went out to Graceland when he first bought that place. That was Graceland before. He didn't name it Graceland. It was Graceland when he bought it.
That's right.
It'd been used as a church, and they called it Graceland.
Yeah.
But we went down there to rehearsal just to play around, you know, cut up and play around, and more or less is what we did.
Hey, did you know they're trying to restore that house exactly like it was while he lived there? Have you sent them any of your pictures? They're trying to get the wallpaper. Did you send them one? They're trying to restore that house just exactly like it was. If you got any photos, sell them to them.
I did.
Oh, yeah. How did I not know that?
That's okay. That's okay.
That's okay. He sold his photos. Did you give yours?
I sold the house to Mike Herb.
Oh, you did?
Did you sell the house to Mike?
Yeah. He bought it from us.
It was in this studio that we were doing Surrender. And Elvis, we sang it and sang it and sang it. We were over there. He was back toward the back, and he stopped it. He said, "Everybody take a break." Well, that was unusual, because when he got to singing, he didn't usually take a break. So we all stood up, and he said, Ray, come here. He said, you teach voice, don't you? I said, well, sometime. What do you need? He said, well, I want to go up real high on tonight, and I know I'm not going to be able to hit it. I can't. I said, oh. I said, the ooh vowel is the hardest one to hit if you're singing up like that. I said, come on. So we went through the door there and through the control room and into the room behind where they had the hookups and some extra machines. They're coffee machines behind the control room. We closed the door. I said, can you throw up? And he said, what? I said, can you throw up? Can you vomit? Can you retch like you're going to throw up? Well, he got tickled. I said, just do it, Presley. So he goes, I said, no, make it like you've really got. He goes, I said, that's a good start. So when he did that, I said, now put your hands on your knees, bend straight from the hips, and we're going to run the vowels. So it was louder in there. I couldn't do it here at all, but we went, A-E-I-O-U, just real loud, and hit. And when he got to the ooh, he went, ooh. I said, no, you got to keep it right where you have the A and the E and the I and the O. And so we did it a couple more times, and then finally he said, you. I told him to put a Y in front of it. I said, that's it. He said, let's cut it. So we came back out and recorded the whole song, and somebody just sent us the outtakes of where he was practicing the last 8 bars.
Well, he voice cracked.
Yeah, and everything, and he finally got it one, tonight. And he said, that's it. He walked away from it. Yeah.
He couldn't do it again.
Yeah, and he told somebody in California about that because one of his guys, well, it was Wilkinson, came and said, I just thought you'd like to know that Elvis told me you made him throw up.
Anything for a song, right?
Yeah, but he used that in all these great things that he did record. He sang up so high the rest of his life,
So that's how you helped him teach to sing, hit the high note.
And also on falsetto. He said he didn't have a falsetto. And Pat Boone says he doesn't have a falsetto, and I think Pat may be right.
Well, Neil didn't have one either.
Yeah, that's right. But he almost did because I said, well, imitate a chicken, just like she's laid an egg. And Presley said, man, you're just full of them, aren't you? I said, yeah. I said, well, and he did it. He said, well, it works. I said, well, if you imitate a chicken, and don't say cluck, cluck, do the cluck. And don't say cackle, do the cackle. So he's going, book, 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 and so after we did that a couple of times, he said, I don't want to know what else you got.
I was going to say, you're the most unusual voice teacher out there.
Rick Nelson got tickled at that, too.
Oh, I can imagine.
He wanted to do something like, not Willie, who was it that would, Sons of the Pioneers, where they go, ooh. He didn't know how to switch to the falsetto. And I did the cackling to him, and he got tickled about that.
Well, it made him relax, too, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's about it. I really, Ray Gordon, I thank you a lot. You've taught me a few things. Now I know how to cackle and retch. I love your stories, and
Thank you a lot,
appreciate your time.
Can you sing high notes better now?
No, well, I'm not going to show you that. Save that for the experts. Wow, those are some great stories from those two guys. We're going to leave RCA Studio B now and go to another historic place in country music history. And that's the original Grand Ole Opry House, downtown Nashville. You know, Elvis once performed there, so let's go see it now. We are here on Lower Broadway in downtown Nashville, very busy place. And behind me is a red brick building. It looks like a church. And some call it a church. They call it the Mother Church of Country Music. This is the old home of the Grand Ole Opry, the Ryman Auditorium. Probably one of the most famous places in all of country music is Grand Ole Opry. And Elvis actually performed on the Grand Ole Opry in 1954. You know, the builder of this building, Thomas Green Ryman, really did construct this to be used as a church. It was called the Union Gospel Tabernacle when it opened, In the year 1904, when Mr. Ryman passed away, the building was renamed in his honor, the Ryman Auditorium. And the statue can be seen around the front. Elvis actually performed at the Grand Ole Opry very, very early in his career, 1954, and I believe he was placed here as a favor to Sam Phillips. In fact, it was probably too early in his career. I suppose the audience didn't know who Elvis Presley was, and I don't really think the country music establishment was ready for Elvis. There was no screaming girls at the Grand Ole Opry performance that day, and after he was through with his songs, the Opry manager allegedly told Elvis, "You need to go back to driving a truck." We're glad he never followed the advice of that Opry manager. If he had, he would have never ended up at our next location, the Country Music Hall of Fame. Just a short walk from the old Ryman Auditorium is the new Country Music Hall of Fame building. And you know, the country music industry really didn't accept Elvis for a long time, but he forced them to change. His tremendous success forced the country music industry to change the music, make it more modern, a little more urban maybe. In fact, it became a lot more like a rock and roll band, like Elvis's music. In 1998, the country music industry paid tribute to Elvis by inducting them into their Hall of Fame. And it is an acknowledgement that yes, indeed, Elvis Presley had changed the country music genre. Inside the Country Music Hall of Fame Museum, of course, are many wonderful artifacts, including a few of Elvis Presley's. There is the gold-plated car, custom fitted with all sorts of wonderful things like a television set. And next to that is the gold-plated piano. Those are two of the biggest attractions inside the museum today. You know, Elvis really knew how to spend his money. When we started this tour in Tupelo, of course, he had no money at all. We followed his progress on our tour. We met many great people who told us their stories, went to some fascinating places, and we ended here in Nashville, Country Music Hall of Fame, where the legend lives on. I'm Mike Freeman. Thanks for watching our show, and goodbye.
Mississippi River tried to stand still. They playing a song called That's Alright. Mama in Memphis on Saturday night.
Well, Jimmy, thanks for coming in today. We're inside a very famous room. Kind of tell me a little bit about this place here.
Well, this is the ground zero for rock and roll. This is 706 Union, Memphis, Tennessee, Sun Studio, where I actually got my start in the music business. Thanks to Sam Phillips and Billy Lee Riley and Jerry Lee Lewis and guys like that. I first started when I really was still in high school. And I came in with a band sort of like Elvis would do. You know, you could pay at the time. You could give them like maybe $15 and cut 2 acetate sides, and we did that. And luckily for me, Jack Clement had just been hired here, and so Jack heard my playing and said, "Man, how would you like to play on some of these records we're cutting down here?" I said, "Are you kidding me? How would I like it?" So that was probably in 1956, maybe early part of 1956 or summer of '56.
So you're a very lucky teenager. You kind of walked right in the beginning of it all.
I did, and timing was perfect. Timing's everything.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So who did you play with?
Well, I started out the first record that I ever played on that was released was a Jerry Lee Lewis record called Crazy Arms and the End of the Road. And then I was also, but the first one to hire me that had a contract was Billy Riley. He was Billy Riley. He's Billy Lee Riley now, but he's Billy Riley then. And he had just cut Trouble Bound and Rock With Me Baby, which is Rock With Me Baby actually showed up in this Johnny Cash movie, Walk the Line. So lucky for Billy.
Yeah,
but
good for
anyway,
him,
he hired me, and but I had been in previously when Sam was here. When I was probably in the maybe 10th, 11th grade, I came in with a guy named Jimmy Williams, who was trying to get a deal with Sun, and he didn't get it then, but eventually he did have a release on. Sam loved him, but the boy had a little, couldn't get a record. But finally, after several years, he finally actually had maybe one release, and it was on Sun in its heyday, so he's got that to talk about.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So that's all he ever was able to do.
Yeah, and I got to be. I was the first drummer that recorded with Cash. We did "Ballad of a Teenage Queen," and I don't like it, but his things happen that way. But I guess Jerry Lee's the one that really brought me to the forefront with songs like "Whole Lot of Shakin'" and "Great Balls of Fire" and "Breathless" and "High School Confidential" and
so
on and on and on.
You were on those big songs.
I was on all of Jerry's Sun records except "You Win Again," and I don't know where I was. I don't know where I was that night, but I wasn't on that one.
Yeah. Now, Jimmy, as I understand, you didn't really perform with Elvis, or at least in the recording studio here, but you knew Elvis. Is that right?
I knew him well. Met him several times, and I guess the first time I ever met him, Red West was trying to put a band together, and we were
Red West was.
Red West, and we were rehearsing. Going to have a rehearsal out here at a golf course clubhouse at Riverside Drive, or Riverside Park golf course. And we're out there playing. Here comes Elvis, He's got this lavender pants and lavender shirt and all that kind of stuff. And I was pretty blown away with him, Like, golly, what's up with this guy? But then he would come in the studio, and man, when he would walk in the door, it would be like chaos. I mean, not chaos. That's not the word I'm looking for. It'd just be like a charisma thing. It'd just stop everything. Everybody just, And there was something very special about him. As a matter of fact, he said, I didn't even know he could play piano. He showed me a couple of licks on the piano one night and invited me to come to his house. As a matter of fact, the house on Audubon Drive.
Yeah.
And we were there one night with his mother and dad and probably 7 or 8 of us, close friends of his. And man, he played. I think now that I look back on this, is probably one of my greatest musical experiences. Because I don't know, it just he played like 2 or 3 hours, one song, and I didn't even know he could play that much piano, just him. And but I didn't think much about it at the time, other than I was having a good time. But when you look back on it now, it's just that's very, very special, and I'm glad I got to go. Then we went to Graceland a few times, and we used to eat watermelon out there where they got them all buried now. That was a big garden spot, and we'd go skating at Rainbow Skating Rink.
Okay.
And then when we would leave skating rink, we'd go out to Graceland and kind of hang out there, and go swimming and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I would think, and I've seen Elvis's concerts several times, and the first time I actually saw him live was at actually the Chiska Hotel. He was in the ground floor down there, and you could just get up right close to him. I mean, I was standing right next to him. He was putting on his show, and there was like 300 or 400 people packed in that one room, And so that was a great experience. And I saw him at the old Ellis Auditorium a couple of times.
Yeah.
And So I've and of course Mid-South Coliseum. I've seen several of his shows, but it's still that one-on-one, you know, that the Elvis that I knew when he was coming down the sun. That's the Elvis I'm going to remember. You know,
Yeah.
He was always nice to me and super, you know, super times.
Super times.
Yeah.
So he walked in the room and everybody stopped what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the $1 Million Quartet. Carl Perkins was cutting a session when they did this $1 Million Quartet. Elvis comes in, and all of a sudden they quit. You know, they quit recording Carl and start singing gospel things. Then they called Jerry Lee was actually at the studio because he was playing piano. They were cutting Matchbox, and Jerry Lee was a session piano player right there at that time. He actually played on Flying Saucer Rock and Roll, a Billy Riley record, and Matchbox, and maybe another one. But he was here that day for that. When Elvis popped in, they called Cash and formed the $1 Million Quartet.
Yeah. Which
So,
was,
and that was just one of those leisure things that just all of a sudden the guy pops in and, you know,
it's a little impromptu
yeah, and
jam
it
session.
turns
yeah.
out to be another one of those special moments.
Yeah. And I guess, and of course, Sam kept the tape running.
Sam always kept the tape running, and anybody that buys any of these box sets from Sun, you know they've got everything, man. They've got firsthand information, sessions, talking, everything. They never. I don't know when he started doing that, but he had boxes and boxes and boxes of recordings.
Oh my!
That's why when Shelby Singleton released all this stuff on his box sets, you got so many outtakes and so many different songs. Because at the time, they weren't supposed to be a session. They were just going to be, we were just maybe warming up, you know, and do a Chuck Berry song or a Little Richard song, and it turned into being a Jerry Lee Lewis box set, you know,
Yeah.
later on. But at the time, you didn't know that, but they recorded just about everything, and I'm glad they did now because history has proven that people like that stuff. You know?
Well, it's part of history. It's part of the beginning of rock and roll.
Right.
Yeah. You know, sometimes I heard Elvis like to play. He wasn't just a quiet little fellow there, was he?
Well,
not really.
He would rent the fairgrounds and he would rent the movie theaters. But one of his favorites was renting the Rainbow Skating Rink. Now you would think if you're going to rent the skating rink, you're just going to have a little skating party. But this thing turned into more like roller derby. I mean, him and Red, and of course he'd always get Red on his side. But they would pick sides, and it's almost like football on skates, man. I mean, I actually have a scar on my knee right now from going going out there. And I actually got to knock him down one time, so I kind of retaliated. But you know, he liked that. And I asked him, I said, man, does Colonel Parker know you're doing this kind of stuff? He said, we won't tell him, you know. But later on, he started wearing a helmet when they would play touch football and that kind of stuff. But actually, in those days, they would just put the skates on and get out and just run into each other and see if they could knock you down, man.
Oh my God!
So it wasn't like we were just skating around the rink. We were really going after it. So that was, and of course the old donut thing is a true thing too. There was a donut shop a couple of blocks from the skating rink.
Oh really?
Lamar.
Oh okay.
Oh yeah, I think it was Thornton's Donuts, but he would bring in these, dozens and dozens of donuts. And it was his big thing. So they were hot right out of the grease, I guess.
Oh.
But man, he was big on donuts, and I guess that's where all that jelly donut stuff started.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
he liked all that,
Yeah. Oh goodness.
But those are some fond Elvis memories for me, man. And I tell you another incident that was, and this actually is talking about Scotty Moore and Bill. They were at the Ellis Auditorium at the time, and we had a north and south hall, so they could actually play to two audiences at once, The stage was in the middle.
Yeah.
And he had sold so many tickets that they opened it up. You could get both sides. So, man, and the girls were screaming so loud, you couldn't even hear the band play. I don't see, man, you guys don't even have to tune up, man. Just go out there and make like you're playing because you can't hear a word you're saying, man. It's just screaming and carrying on. So it was a magical, I mean, there was something about all of that I guess you almost have to be there to hear it. But I tell you, I went to this last Elvis thing, this past Elvis week here.
Right, in
and
August.
They had that show at the FedEx Forum.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever seen one of those or not, but they have that screen. And you know, and nowadays, you know, you see that in a lot of places where they have the screen. Grand Ole Opry has one. And all.
Oh, yeah.
And you find yourself looking at Elvis, and they've got that band down there playing. Man, I thought that was outstanding. I was thoroughly entertained.
Well, sometimes you almost half think, God, he's still out there
Exactly.
doing it.
The only thing about it, the band gets older, and he's still, you know, he's 30 years younger than they are.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, he is 30 years younger than they are.
Yeah, they throw him up there,
yeah.
but it was, I tell you, it's still very entertaining, and he sold enough tickets. Here's a dead man that sold out the Pyramid and the FedEx Forum and the Coliseum,
Oh, yeah.
and not even here.
Yeah,
That
he's
should
not
tell you
even
something.
here. No.
I mean, you know, we're talking 18, 20,000 tickets.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it is.
You could go to this Kay's Drive-In was another place Elvis liked to hang out.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
we could go in there, and when I like here again, when I think back on those days, at the time you don't think anything about it because you just got, you know, 2 or 3 guys sitting in the car talking, man. But one of them happened to be Elvis Presley, you know.
Right.
And when you look back on it now and feel just really how intimate that particular setting was, you know, to be with a guy that went on to be as phenomenal as he is. And the sad part about all of the Elvis things for me, I guess, was the fact that he got to the point where you couldn't get to him, the one-on-one like we had at the beginning, you know.
Yeah.
His entourage and his management, and you just never saw him except at a glimpse. You never could get down and talk to Elvis like you could years ago, you know. That breaks my heart. And then to see what happened to him physically and on stage, but he still had good shows, but it really wasn't quite the same. I think, you know, after his mother passed away, that hit him real hard.
Yeah.
And but I like to remember the Elvis that came into the studio and the ones that I knew before the Army days and before his mother passed away, and those times that we spent, you know.
Yeah, that's what.
He would bring some of these Hollywood starlets in here, and I mean, it was just you just never knew. You know, you'd be down here, because I played on so many sessions that he would be in and out on a pretty regular basis, you know, and you never knew who he'd have with him. He always seemed to bring somebody, you know.
Do you remember Natalie Wood?
Well, I remember a couple of them. I don't remember her particularly, but I do remember him bringing a couple of good-looking girls in here. That I do remember. And a couple of them were from Hollywood, so it could have very well been her, but I don't remember if it was her or not. But they would ride the motorcycles in and, you know, have the girl on the back of the motorcycles. And Memphis was a great place to be. It still is, but it was really great then.
Yeah. Did you ride motorcycles with Elvis?
I didn't ride motorcycles with him, but we did start riding a few motorcycles. I don't know if, you know, Jack had one, and we would ride them for a while, but I wasn't as big into it as he was. I wasn't actually part of the Elvis entourage. The only regrets I ever have is not asking him for a job. You know, I feel like, I love DJ and he's a great drummer, but I always thought, man, I might could have got the job if I'd have been a little more aggressive. But he already had a drummer and they were out playing and all of that. But we were just friends, you know, and I think he appreciated the music that I was playing and the guys that I was playing. I know he loved Roy Orbison and he loved Cash and Carl Perkins and those guys, you know.
Yeah.
So it was kind of we were like a big family here. They would go out in the early days and do these shows, you know, with, well, actually it was a Sun show.
Yeah.
Until Elvis got so big that he wasn't part of the show. But it was like Warren Smith and Sonny Burgess and Billy Riley and Roy Orbison and the list goes on and on. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. But then when Elvis dropped out, it was Jerry Lee and Johnny Cash were headlining and Carl. Because they all had monstrous records too, you know.
Yeah, they did.
But it was fun traveling. We would travel mostly, for me, was kind of in a radius where you didn't have to stay out weeks at a time. We'd stay out, you know, just a few days at a time and then come back and do our recording and then maybe go out with somebody else.
Yeah. Well, you were still in school, weren't you?
Well, I was just getting out of school, and actually I wound up going to Canada with Conway Twitty, of all people, man. That was kind of strange, but Howling about in that band, but I did that. Riley, somehow we didn't have anything booked, and it was slow down here, so I actually went and toured with him some.
Oh my goodness.
So it was, yeah. I've had some pretty neat experiences.
I bet you have. Yeah.
By the time I got here, in my whole career, Elvis was already leaving to go to RCA, but he was still a major force here because he kept coming back, and he didn't want to leave either, really. They asked him once, one guy asked him, he said, "What do you like most about Memphis?" He said, "Everything." And I'm sure he loved the barbecue and the girls and the music and the whole 9 yards, man. I don't know of anything he didn't like,
Yeah.
Elvis was a very compatible person, He loved Beale Street. He loved blacks, whites. He loved all kind of music. He loved it all, man. He was a chameleon as far as mixing in and doing which his music proved that. That's the kind of stuff he wanted to sing. But he could do country. He could do anything.
Yeah.
And so he was, but he was a people person. He was a type of guy where girls loved him and the guys loved him. He wasn't just, it was, I think guys had cared as much about his music and for him as the girls did. That's kind of unusual. Usually guys don't care nothing about the band so much, as the girls, but he had it going on with both of them.
Yeah.
But he and coming from North Memphis, which was Humes High School, and I was raised in North Memphis myself. That was kind of a little different environment in Memphis. Now, you grew up. If you were out of North Memphis, you were a pretty tough guy.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was kind of a survival. It may be like Chicago or New York, I don't know, but I can tell you one thing: Memphis, you had to fight to survive in Memphis in the '50s, regardless.
Yeah.
And Elvis, he tried to hang in there, in that environment too, because he was raised there in over here at Lauderdale Courts, and so growing up that way, you grow up tough,
Yeah.
I don't think he was wimpy by any stretch.
No,
that's what made him a man's man too,
He was, that was a poor part of town. He had to fight for what you wanted, I guess. Yeah.
When you go to school with the Bramletts and Red Weston and all those guys,
Yeah, they were tough guys.
You got to be, you got to be able to.
Yeah.
But he was smart enough to make friends with those guys.
Well, he knew how to charm them. Yeah.
Right.
He knew how to charm his way out of trouble too. Yeah.
But and even George Klein, man. No, I don't think anybody expected Elvis to be what he was. George was a disc jockey in Osceola at the time when That's All Right Mama came out, and when they carried him around, he couldn't believe it. He said, "Man, here's Elvis Presley. Is that the same guy that went to school with me?" And it's like, yeah, man, that's the same guy. And what's really strange about Elvis is that he never played locally. Elvis didn't have a band and start out playing in a club like I did or parties or such. He started out right here with the record. He walked in and cut a record that was a hit.
Yeah.
And then he got his band and went on the road.
That is unusual because
he tried to get a job with Eddie Bond and some of them other people, and they didn't want him. Man, no, and Blackwood Brothers, they didn't want him.
Yeah.
But when he came in and got that hit record, man, very few people don't do that. You don't just walk in. Usually you played somewhere
right
before you have a record deal.
Kind of like an apprenticeship. You learn the business and you get out there and do shows. He jumped right in and got the record.
He learned the business owner. He got that OJT, man, on the job training.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So now, I don't know if people think about that, but
well, he must have known a lot of songs when he walked in the door. He just didn't walk in ignorant.
No, I'm sure he did. And he also grew up with the Johnny and Dorsey Burnett boys, which are pretty tough. They were all fought in the Golden Gloves, and and so they were all kind of hanging out together, because you hear them tell it. And Charlie Feathers, he's another one, man. And all those influences, it could have been any of those guys could have probably. They all came out of the same environment right there in the projects,
Yeah.
But Elvis, man, I don't know, he's the one that cut straight through to the top, man.
Yeah.
And the others were relatively successful. Obviously, Johnny and Dorsey Burnett, went on to be real popular, and then Charlie Feathers is a rockabilly icon. He was around here forever.
Yeah.
So there was a lot happening in the early '50s, in mid '50s.
Oh yeah. Well, Jimmy, one last question. What do you miss about Elvis the most? What one thing, if you can think of it?
Well, you know, I think what I miss is the times when you could just come in before he got so popular. You know, you could just come in and play some really good music. You know, you can't do that anymore. Even the people that are relatively famous still have such an entourage today that you can't really sit down and have that to me, that closeness. And I miss that, and especially because being from the South and being born, I'm from Memphis myself, you know, and having that same Southern background, and I miss that. And today's entertainers, I don't know, man, they're just, it's not quite the same. I can't quite put my finger on it, but you don't find very many of them that have that charisma or that sincerity about him. Elvis was sincere about his music, you know. Yeah. And he could get it, man. Today they got so many gadgets, man. They got, you know, they can if you're singing flat, they can raise you up and get you on key. They can do so many things that you don't know when you hear the finished product if it's real or not real. You know, it's synthesizers and all this stuff. But with Elvis, man, it was back in simple. There was simplicity, I guess, of the music, and just having that feeling of it seemed like everybody was happy, you know.
Yeah.
Happy days, man.
Yeah.
That'd be a good title for a
TV show? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I remember that one.
You know, Elvis to me was the true Southern gentleman, and he was a super nice guy.
Jimmy, thank you. Appreciate all the kind
pleasure.
words
Thank you.
said to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're a Southern gentleman. Thanks a lot, sir.